The last couple months that I was in Southern California, I learned way more about the metaphysical universe and the evils being done therein and via metaphysical knowledge. So I'm remembering and putting all the pieces together this morning as my mind is given clarity and understanding in reference to all these things. I remember I was sitting in my camper and it was like this big hand just plopped itself on top of my head and turned it about. My head didn't physically turn, but I felt like an examining, and I heard, "This one's ready," and moving on. I'm like, "Screw you, motherfucker! What? Ready for what? You know?" And it was like the end of summer, so you've been in 120 degree plus weather, malnourished, food resources there are at a bare minimum, and I'm so emaciated that I can't really take too much food in. Your digestive system, everything shrinks. It's so fragile and it's so sensitive. And I was sleeping outside because it was so hot, and I was given to arrange things in a spiral, like what I wanted to see in my world. And I had representatives of all those things, like what I would want to take with me if I were like plopped down on another planet. Something in me knew. And I remember, every time I close my eyes, I can choose to just see what's going on around me in the purely physical or non-physical environment. And I remember seeing like as if I were in outer space, deep, 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 deep space. No planet Earth nearby or anything. All I'm seeing is vast darkness and stars. And all of a sudden I can perceive, because it's invisible, something moving, because there's a slight distortion of the stars, and I could make out like a rectangle. I don't know what the front looked like, but it was like a rectangle moving there. And around that time, I was laying down. You're in perpetual exhaustion by that time. I was able, like early morning, I would get up, take my dogs for a walk, feel a lot of joy and fondness for my environment. But then the whole rest of the day was in the shade, under the trees. And I was laying there, and I was very aware of the discussion being had as they came, and they just siphoned every bit of vital energy out of me. But there was just this one spark of light that they couldn't get. And I'm just like, oh good, yeah, take it all. Take all of it. All the burden, all the weight, all the fear. Take it all, That one speck of light, that'll carry me. That I can grow from that. It's not a problem. Like every last inclination to bomb anything, destroy anything, you go ahead, you take it all. I'm fine with that. I don't care. But then I remember becoming conscious. So once again, I'm on the edge of sleep, and I open my third eye, and I'm on one of these arcs, rectangular shape, and at the front I see the back of a creature, which you would just mistake as a star, because its form is just basically light. It's just energy, kind of mechanical its vibe was mechanical, but it was just driving. And I was aware that there were others around me, other creatures, a variety of beings, but they weren't conscious. And I just came to and whoop, come back to my body. And now I've come back into civilization, mainstream society, and I learned about soul scraping and how they'll actually ship the human consciousness off. And what was supposed to happen, because this was their practice, I would see women especially, but all kinds of people, they'd come in, they're like really sweet and really helpful, very kind. A lot of them were schizophrenic, but they had their stuff together. They were on their meds. They were looking to build a life for themselves that they couldn't build out in mainstream society. They couldn't afford rent. They couldn't keep a job because they had to manage their non-neurotypical self. And you would see these people come in, and then you'd see them associating with other people, and then all of a sudden they're a completely different person. Just, they snap violently, or they end up like they called them tweakers, the people who would go and they'd be digging in the dirt and they'd collect rocks. They would fight over rocks. Oh, that's my rock, that's my rock. There's something else inhabiting those people at that point. So that's what was going on out there, very clearly. Soul scraping, and then the occupation. And I would, one time, it was just before night fell, so it was like at dusk. And I saw these two people, and inside them were old, shriveled up, lizard-looking things. I'm like, oh. Now I know why that person didn't understand a joke and didn't want to be dealt with lightheartedly. They didn't understand that. They don't get that because they don't like love, appreciation. That's foreign to them. Affection, sincerity, playfulness, nurturing through joy and fun and play. They don't know anything about that. So then that's why I began to understand the people around me. So they thought they had scraped my soul and were going to ship it off. And I actually got a message from one of the camp leaders, who's very prestigious, had a lot of power, and was the handler for two of the most infamous, thieves and doers of bad things out there that everybody blamed for everything. And I got a message from her out of the blue. It says, "Now you're one of us." Well, they didn't realize that my soul had come back to itself. I'm like, no, I will never be one of you. And I posted that publicly. I am not like you. I will not be like you. I am not one of you. I had a post. I don't even know if the video's still up here, if I put it private. But it's like, I will never identify as a slabber. Because if this is what being a slabber means, I will not be a slabber. I was honored, like, even before my second summer was over, one of the camp leader's sons, who was due to inherit the role as an elder, told me, I know, you're a slabber to the core, man. You don't have to finish 2 summers. We already know. You can hack it, man. You're just as tough. You belong here just as much as anybody else. So I had earned my stripes. But I'm like, no, I said, you can be an elder, as in you can protect and, manage the community, the criminal element, and everything like that. But I am older than you. I have more experience than you. I have more perception than you. You will never be my elder. Not gonna happen. So it's just, I didn't have a context for what had been happening to me. And now that I'm out here and I'm exposed to people who do know what the bad guys are up to, now I have context for it. Like, I survived the soul scraping, y'all. And I did it fearlessly. I knew they were sucking the life out of me. I knew they were sucking the life force out of me. But then I was able to get up and I was able to do all kinds of moving around on very little food and just follow the guidance. Stare at the sun and know I was exchanging consciousness with the sun. And that I was interacting with all kinds of levels of entities and earning respect, earning notice. And when I left, of course, they followed me. And then they would be distracted by one place because that's territorial. What the hell are you doing here? And then I'm buzzing off, to another part of the country that is full of the criminal element and rioting and, all of that and wealthy people. So my cousin said, you have following you a spirit with large black dogs. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm going to lose them here somehow. I'm being given to do this. And then I plant myself and I'm taken in by a community that is of the utmost authority here. They don't know what to make of me. They don't know who I am. They don't know what I'm doing here. All they know is I'm not causing trouble. I'm not being intimidated, threatened. They're not moving me around. The first impression that they had of me, like I was somebody's handler. I was coming here to replace another handler. And then they're like, well, no, she's not latching on to anybody. So who's her handler? Where's this person's handler? So I guess they kind of assigned me one. But not as a literal, governing one. Just, they knew somehow I had to be treated with respect. And that they weren't going to be able to funnel me off like they did the rest of the people that were coming through. It's just very weird. So this is just validation in case anybody else has had these things happen to them, and why maybe they aren't afraid of them. Because you have no fear. What does scripture tell us? The peace beyond all understanding and comprehension. And I'm sitting here and I've done a lot of the research, like in the bottom, underneath in the description of one of my videos, I put the link to the astral something YouTube channel, and they have all the videos, all the history of the Anunaki and all the so-called alien races, which are the angel demonic races, the good and bad angels. And the parallel in the description in the Bible. So even if this Yahuwah, this Yahweh of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is the head Anunnaki who genetically manipulated certain beings that already existed on Earth so that they could make slaves out of us. That doesn't matter. Because even in their own histories, they would normally come to Earth, they would destroy the race of slaves that they had made, take off, and then come back, make a new race, better and more to their liking each time. But the last time recorded, the message came to them from a deity that they respect. They don't know, they're distant from it, but they will not go against it. They knew they were violating universal law when they genetically manipulated to create what is now the human species that we recognize ourselves as. But they were told, no, you can't do away with this batch. This batch is staying. That came straight from, they think they're the top. They think they're, part of galactic federations and, the governance of all this, that, and the other thing. And that may be true. That's okay. However, I know my roots, my reason for being here, the reason this batch of humanity, of man, was preserved, because our roots are born from the desire of that in which we exist. So our true ultimate creator, the consciousness that creates and brings into, gives birth to, and then intentionally creates environment for the cosmos and everything in them. This right here, right now, is the answer to the desire that came from that. And so even if these Anunnaki are coming back, and they are the ones that are going to organize the earth, they will be subject themselves to what in Aramaic is called Abun, the birther, mother, father, creator. So the desire giving birth to what it wants to experience and embody, and the creator, the father, the masculine, creates the environment for that to exist in. And that is the co-creation of the divine and masculine aspects within the source from which we've come. So there you go. From soul scraping to assurance, for me, I feel it within me, that no matter who shows up and says, "You're mine," I say yes. To a degree, my care and keeping has been entrusted to you, and through me, awareness comes of everything you do and allow to happen to me. And you will be held accountable for it, because no harm is going to come to me. It's not going to happen. There's only a certain extent that it can come to, but other than that, no harm can come to me. There you have it. This is what I know. Maybe can help you know more about yourself and your journey.